What's the smartest way you've outsmarted a teacher? In high school, my math teacher, Mrs. Kowalski, ran her classroom like a boot camp. She had this awful rule where if you got a question wrong, you had to wear this giant hot pink dunce cap and sit in a tiny plastic chair at the front of the room, like you were in preschool. She called it motivational discipline. We all called it pure humiliation. She was the kind of teacher who didn't just enjoy order. She thrived on embarrassment, short, grumpy, and always glaring over her glasses like we were criminals instead of students. That dunce cap sat on her desk like some twisted trophy, and she loved finding excuses to use it. The worst part? She targeted kids she knew were struggling. She'd call on the quiet ones, the ones barely keeping up, toss them some impossible calculus problem we hadn't even covered, and then act all disappointed when they couldn't solve it. Then she'd drag them up to the chair and use them as a cautionary tale for the next 90 minutes. 2 weeks before all this, she did it to my girlfriend, Sarah. Sarah had been having a rough week, and instead of helping, Mrs. Kowalski put her in that chair for the entire class. Sarah cried the whole time. That was the moment I knew I was going to take her down. So when Mrs. Kowalski announced a pop quiz on derivatives and integrals for Thursday, saying that anyone who failed would be publicly reflecting on their effort, I knew this was my shot. What she didn't know was that I'd done my homework in a very different way. My older brother had taken her class years ago, and lucky for me, he'd saved everything. Notes, homework, and most importantly, copies of her old quizzes. Turns out, she reused the same problems every year from this ancient 1980s calculus book. I spent days studying everyone. Thursday rolled around. She passed out the quiz like it was Christmas morning. "You have 30 minutes, she said, and we'll be discussing the results in detail tomorrow." She practically winked at the stack of dunce caps on her desk. The quiz was brutal. Chain rule, U substitution, stuff we hadn't even touched in class. But I'd seen it all before. I finished in 15 minutes, double-checked my answers, and sat back while the rest of the class panicked. The next day, chaos. She marched in with the graded papers and the dreaded cap. Started calling out names. Lena, 26%. Miguel, 34%. Sarah, 21%. One by one, she sent my classmates up front in that ridiculous hat, sitting in tiny chairs like they were in kindergarten. Some were trying not to cry. It was heartbreaking. Then she got to my name. Emily Carter, 100%. The whole room froze. She stared at my paper like it had insulted her personally. "Emily," she said slowly, "why don't you come up and walk us through problem 7? She thought she had me. Thought I'd freeze or fumble or expose that I'd cheated. But I walked right up, took the marker, and broke down the solution line by line. Every formula, every step crystal clear. She tried another, then another. I nailed them all. You could see the color drain from her face, while 6 students sat behind me in dunce caps. And I was turning her impossible quiz into a math lesson. When class ended, she pulled me aside. "How did you learn those answers?" she asked, voice low and stiff. I just smiled. "I guess I just studied harder than you thought." She couldn't prove a thing. And the pink cap? It stayed on her desk for the rest of the semester, collecting dust.